I forgot what I was saying.
Welcome, Wanderers. We're glad you joined us on this video. As you watch the video about going across I-90, please just click on a link that pops up of a place that interests you.
If you have ever been to South Dakota, then you know that this state is sort of shaped like this, and you're going, there's only two interstates. There's the one that runs up this side, the eastern side, and then there's the one that goes all the way across the middle of the state, which is called I-90.
We're going to talk about the different stops and things that you can do coming across South Dakota when you're on I-90. So what we're doing is this is when you're coming west across I-90, coming out of Sioux Falls, which is the largest city in South Dakota on the in the southeast corner. So as you're coming out, you're going to be on I-90 heading west, and it's just a really, really long road in front of you. But there are some really cool stops along the way, different things you can do depending on your time frame, what you want to do. First stop that you'll come to is at exit 390. It's a place called Cowboy Town. It's supposed to be like an Old West sort of place. It's the second one in South Dakota, because we'll talk about one that claims to be the first one.
There's another one that's called the original.
We'll get there.
So then once you leave Cowboy Town, or if you choose not to go there and you keep coming west, the next stop with something interesting is at exit 374, and it's called Porter Sculpture Park. And even if you don't take the exit and go there, you will definitely know it, because as you're driving by, you can clearly see a large bull's head coming out of the ground, and lots of different sculptures.
What you might call a collection of oddities. That's the best way to describe it.
We will not be going there because it is kind of pricey, and if you go really slowly, then you get to see just about everything that they have from the interstate, and you don't have to exit and go like wander around. But if that's something that you really like, or that's the type of art that you're really interested in, then it might be something cool for you to check out.
Next stop is at exit 330, and it's one of those things that South Dakota's kind of known for. It's the world-famous Corn Palace. So it's in Mitchell, South Dakota. It's a very cool stop. If you have just a little bit, especially if you're stopping maybe to eat in Mitchell, it's a really good place to go and just check it out real quick. First of all, because it's free, which is my favorite price. But it's a really good place to get out, and really if you just need to stretch your legs, maybe stop for lunch, you want to get out, not just get right back in the car. It's a really, really cool place to do that. There's also a prehistoric village there, which is a Native American prehistoric village. So that's also something you can check out there as well.
Yeah, and the Corn Palace also, if you're wondering like exactly what it looks like and stuff, it is more, I feel like it's more of an art exhibit, like to see what they can do with corn. The next stop, as you're driving by, is an actual rest stop. So I know that every state has rest stops, and some of them are very cool. But some of the ones along this I-90 route we really think are cool. The one at exit 296 is the Tiny Church rest stop, and they actually have two tiny churches. So if you're going westbound, there's a tiny church at that rest stop, and if you're coming eastbound, there's a tiny church also. If you need to go to the bathroom, it's definitely a good place to go. The rest stops, all of them along I-90 in South Dakota, are very clean and very safe and very nice. And so stop in there and go to the bathroom and check out the tiny church.
The next major stop is a rest stop. There's also a town there, but the noticeable feature is a statue that stands on a bluff above the river that separates eastern South Dakota from western South Dakota. And South Dakota actually talks about that you can either be East River or you can be West River. So this is exit 263, and on the bluffs overlooking the river is the Dignity statue. And it's a beautiful, beautiful statue of a Native American woman with a quilt held out behind her shoulders, looking off into the distance. It's a really wonderful place to stop. It's a great rest area. It also contains an exhibit during the summer, so from about the middle of May until probably the middle of September, Lewis and Clark exhibit with a lot of information, a lot of great things about the Lewis and Clark expedition as they came west exploring the Louisiana Purchase. Really, really good place to stop. And the town there is Chamberlain, also a good place to stop and get something to eat. There's also the South Dakota Hall of Fame is there as well. So a couple different things to do there if you're about halfway across the state and ready to get out for a stop.
And speaking of getting out for a stop and to just stretch your legs, exit 260, which is not far from the Dignity statue, there is Owl's Oasis. There's a few places, a few things as you're driving along that you will see many billboards for, and Owl's Oasis is one of them. And it's a good place to stop and get gas, and at the same time you can even buy some souvenirs, you can wander around. I think there might be a restaurant in there too. Yeah. And so it's just a nice place to like stretch your legs, and you have plenty of space to walk, and if people need to buy things or if you need gas stops and everything all in one location, then Owl's Oasis is a great place to stop.
Next place, when you get back in the car, pretty good ways down the road is a place that I think is awesome. It's at exit 192, a little town called Murdo. It's the Pioneer Auto Show. And so you'll begin to see billboards for that. But it's got one of the original General Lees. The Dukes of Hazzard, near and dear to my heart growing up as a Southern boy. So they've got one of the General Lees there, and just an awesome collection of classic cars, and great place to stop, be able to check that out, and have a good time seeing all sorts of different autos that they have there at the Pioneer Auto Show.
And tractors, right?
And tractors too, yeah. Lots of tractors.
So the next stop along your route will be exit 170, and it is called the original 1880 town. So if you actually don't have time to stop and you're driving all the way through to Rapid, you can easily come back to this in a day trip and combine it with a couple of the other things, because it's not that far away. You could easily drive there, do the stuff you need to do. It's about 100 miles away from Rapid City, so not too bad to just drive out, do a few things, because there's more things in between there and here. And so that could also be a day trip if you were like headquarters for the vacation. If you were staying in Rapid, you could easily drive back out. So the 1880 town is just exactly what it says. It's a town that looks like how it would have looked in the 1880s. You can just wander around the town through the buildings and look at all the different things that there are to do around that little town.
You can also take a carriage ride with it's not Stinky. There's a name they have. So one of the billboards says you can take a ride, and I can't remember the phrase that they use, but it has all those things that you would think of with an 1880s town. So at exit 150, you'll find a couple of interesting things. There's literally a car parts deer that's next to a gas station there, and most likely, if you're driving west across South Dakota, you're heading probably to the Black Hills, and also with the intention of seeing the Badlands. So this is where you'll see the first mention along Interstate 90, really, of the Badlands, and it's the Badlands Petrified Gardens.
So at the next stop, which is at exit 131, there are a couple of really cool things. I think they're really cool because they both give you opportunities for stamps in your National Park Passport book, which is a great thing. But the first one, and the one that I think if you're only making one stop for this trip, if you're driving all the way across I-90 and you have like only 1 extra hour, and that's all you have, and you need to know the one thing that you need to see, it's the Badlands National Park. So at this exit 131, you will get off the interstate and enter the park, and you will loop around through the park and get back on the interstate all the way down to exit 109. So you're going to be cutting out a big chunk of the interstate while you're driving around the park. Now I say an hour, you could probably drive it in 45 minutes, but if you want to get out at all, you're going to need to add a little bit more time. And so it's the number one. If you have time for only one stop, this is the one you do. Also, easy to get to if your home base again is in Rapid and you just have time to drive out for something, make that a priority one day.
The other cool thing at that exit is the Minuteman National Historic Site. Now, what a lot of people don't know, and being in the military, is that once you get out sort of in the South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming area, there are missiles everywhere, and you have no idea. They're part of our national defense. And so this area of South Dakota used to be part of the 44th Missile Wing and had about 1,000 Minuteman missiles scattered across here. Now almost all of those they've all been decommissioned. Most of them have been removed. But this is part of a set of 3 locations that give you the history and understand that Cold War era of the Minuteman missile. So at 131 you've got the National Historic Site, and then there's another stop between here and the next big location on I-90, which was the Launch Control Facility. And then they also have one of the actual missile silos that have been preserved. And again, another free thing to do on the way. Very cool, very unique.
And you can get a stamp in your passport.
So after you leave the Minuteman site, maybe you stop at those 2 small ones, you're heading on the next one. In addition to, as Amanda said, this theme of unique art driving across South Dakota, there is another thing that you will see over and over and over. And you may have seen it even before you got to South Dakota, because there are signs for this all over the world. It's
Wall drug. When I first saw the sign, I was like, Wall drug? Like, I knew it was a drugstore, but I didn't understand what the Wall was. And Wall is actually the name of the town in South Dakota. So at exit 109, you are going to be in the little town of Wall, South Dakota, and you will follow the signs to Wall drug. And what it actually is like a whole block of stores that are shoved into one giant location. It's a great place to eat, to get ice cream, to stretch your legs, to go walk up to a dinosaur that roars periodically, which, side note, scares children sometimes. So if you need a break, you want to get some food, you want to stretch your legs or whatever, go to Wall Drug. If you do take the Badlands and you go around the loop that takes you through the Badlands Park, when you come out to get back on the interstate, that is going to be exit 109, which is where Wall Drug is. So that's a good place to just stop and rest after you've done the Badlands drive-through. And so you're already at that location before you get back on the interstate.
So the next point of interest as you're moving through the Badlands, you're starting to move into the Black Hills of South Dakota, what you'll run into is just a bump in the road stop on the side. It's not at a town. There's a rest area there, but it's just a very small armed forces museum. You can almost drive past it and you're like, wait, what is that? They've got a plane that's outside. Just a very small local stop with some armed forces history. So again, very cool if military is something that is something that interests you.
And then the last stop before you get into Rapid City is going to be exit 67. It is called the Air and Space Museum. So again, you can kind of tell from the name, it's going to be about air and space. So they have more information about the Minuteman missiles, including an actual missile outside. You will definitely know when you've arrived because it is filled up with airplanes. And it looks like you have to go onto the Air Force Base here to get to it, but you don't have to. The entrance to the Air and Space Museum is right before you get to the entrance to the base. So now you've made it to Rapid City, and it took you a really long time to get to Rapid if you stopped at all of the places along the way. So we hope that you will just pick out what do you think is your favorite, unless you have a really long day, and then you can just take your time and stop at all of them, which would be very cool. If there are places in South Dakota that you want to know more about, or you want us to go check out and give you the insider scoop of what it's like there, just let us know. Comment below, or our email address is always down in the description box, so you can send us an email.
We invite you to come like us on Instagram. We're Wanderlost Family Adventures. Follow us on Twitter at WanderlostFam, and click and subscribe here on YouTube to catch our videos each and every time they come out.
Bye. Corns and seeds and hay.
Yeah.
And stuff.
It's pretty amazing.
I am getting a theme along this road of weird art. Let's not say weird. Of unique art things that people have chosen to do. Maybe it's because winter never ends here and you have to do something. And so people have made sculptures or decorated entire buildings with corn.